So do you think you guys can handle this week? Because a lot of this week is essentially fucking around and finding out, and you should be expecting the unexpected. However, I think this is going to be an exciting week nonetheless, so let's go ahead and get started talking about it. Welcome back to the Astrology Report. My name is Cam White. This time we're talking about May 13th through the 19th of 2024. We have quite a few highlights to talk about, but I wanted to kind of open up with something real fast. Sharks are the oldest living creatures here on Earth. So there must be something about them, you know, in an evolutionary sense that makes them more fit for life on Earth. Sharks die if they don't keep moving forward. This week, or if you're going through a stressful time, the only way to survive is to keep moving forward. And I think there's evidence of that, of the oldest living creatures on Earth being, that's how they survive, is they keep moving forward. They don't stop or they die. And that's worked for them. I wonder if it'll work for you too. But we start this week off on Monday with the moon ingressing into Leo. It'll first then go opposite Pluto. And then we have two highlights going on Monday, which is Mercury finally leaving shadow. As well, we have, what's the other thing? I'm moving this over. The sun conjoining Uranus. There's quite a few highlights this week. So there's quite a bit going on. But as the moon's going into Leo, a little bit more emotionally charged, feeling a little bit more confident, feeling a little bit more brave, a little bit more passionate. But as it goes opposite Pluto, there's this kind of tension of like, you know, if you've ever done any stage work before, like if you've ever done a play, or let's say, you know, you did any sort of public speaking, there's a part of you that's confident, and then there's another, and that's a little bit nervous with that confidence, but there's another part of you that is very overwhelmed by fear of the crowd and rejection and what other people think. And I think that feeling comes up really strong on Monday of just kind of like, hey, I have to put myself out there. I might have to be a little bit vulnerable. I'm very passionate about X, Y, and Z. However, I'm afraid, or I have this fear, or there's a lot of power in what other people think. And I just think that tension is, you know, just really evident on Monday morning. That eventually subsides as the moon, you know, leaves that opposition to Pluto, but it will be there. But we have Mercury leaving shadow. So Mercury entered shadow, the middle of March? And it's like the middle of May at this point. So as Mercury entered shadow, then it went retrograde. We had delays. We had a change of plans. We had to rethink things. We had a situation or an area of our lives that had quite a bit of a change. And now that Mercury's leaving shadow, we're finally done with that. And mentally, we're moving on to new territory. Mentally, we have something else to worry about. We have something else to place our minds on, which I think is really, really nice. And I think that there's going to be this kind of rewarding feeling here on Monday, just the fact that now that that's done and we can kind of mentally move on. But we also have the sun conjoining Uranus, which a lot of this week is Uranus, Taurus, Venus, Jupiter stuff. There's a lot of electricity kind of happening this week. There's a lot of just like, you know, I don't want to say like high energy. That sounds too vague, but like something ecstatic, something, you know, unstable, something exciting, something kind of back and forth. And as the sun conjoins Uranus, there is this kind of electrifying feeling to, again, our willpower, our vitality. The sun is in Taurus, where, you know, I got a lot of interesting comments about last week's video about the new moon in Taurus, and everyone being like, everything's moving slow. I'm really frustrated. I'm stagnant. I'm not getting things done. It's like, yeah, this is the new moon in Taurus. Like, you're going to be moving slow. Like, sure, there might be on paper like this feeling of feeling more relaxed or trying to lean into it, but a lot of us might be resisting that because, again, we have lives to live, we have things to do. And like, but when everything's like in Taurus, it's like you may not actually get things done. But with the sun conjoining Uranus, there's this sort of, you know, breaking up of that energy, this sort of kind of like, you know, uncrusting the earth. It's like when, you know, like a earthquake hits or a volcano breaks out, the earth shifts, the earth moves a little bit where it's typically staying there consistently for a long time. So I think on Monday, there is this breakthrough opportunity to have. And I think with the moon going opposite Pluto here, there is this kind of tension of like, hey, I'm a little bit afraid, I'm a little bit nervous, but you just have to push past that and do it anyway. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for a breakthrough here on Monday. We then get to Tuesday, and I'm really looking forward to Tuesday because the moon will be in Leo, making a trine to Mars in Aries, and then it will make a square to Venus. So while the moon's in Leo making a trine to Mars, this excitement, this kind of, you know, passion and courageousness that we have, like amps up our ability to get shit done. The Mars is now in, sorry, I got to fix my jacket here. Mars being in Aries is wanting to pursue, wanting to take action, wanting to go fast, wanting to move forward. And I think as the moon's in Leo trining Mars, it's like that little bit of a confidence boost that we get from Monday just propels us into going faster and doing more and feeling very like, again, just courageous and bold and like we're getting shit done on Tuesday. The moon will make a square to Venus though. And Again, I've been using the analogy of like when the moon's in Leo squaring the Taurus stuff is like all that glitters is not gold. You kind of have to, have a more of a focus on value rather than like optics or aesthetics. Not even aesthetics, but just optics in general. And I think as the moon's in Leo squaring Venus and Taurus, it's like, okay, maybe you want to push the button now. Maybe you want to go now. But can we make it better? This is something I'm learning a lot in music is like, there might be time, like I have a lot of songs that like I want to drop, but it's like they need to be refined. I can't just, spend my time doing things or just not putting my 100% effort into something. It needs to be refined. It has to have that taste. And so I think that's what a lot of Tuesday is like you'll have a lot of that energy to like get shit done, but you may have to slow down and really ask yourself like, hey, is this really creating the value that I want? Is this really what it is that I want? Or do I just want it to be shiny and glimmery and get the immediate satisfaction of the attention or the glory right this second? And then we get to Wednesday, and the moon, while it's in Leo, first makes a square to Uranus, then it will make a square to Jupiter. We also have the moon then leaving Leo, moving into Virgo, and then it'll make a trine to Mercury. As well, we have our highlight for the week, I should say another highlight for the week, which is Mercury moving into Taurus. With the moon in Leo making a square to Uranus and Jupiter, with squares, there's tension, right? Like a square doesn't necessarily mean bad. Now, if it's again like Mars squaring Saturn, like, okay, that's probably shitty. But the moon in Leo making a square to Uranus and Jupiter is like this resistance to change, this resistance to trying something new. Like, have you ever been, like, I remember the first time, I ever tried sushi. I had so many people being like, you need to try sushi. It's so good. And I was like, no, give me my chicken nuggies. And I just had this resistance to it until I tried sushi, and it was awesome. I love sushi. And that's how I look at the moon in Leo making that square to Uranus and Jupiter, where it's like, you're going to have a resistance to something. Like, change is scary. We're looking at fixed signs here. They don't want to change. They want to be consistent. But that moon squaring Uranus is like, there might be a situation in which like, you're kind of forced to try something new. You're kind of forced to be innovative. You're kind of forced to take a different approach with things. And as the moon makes a square to Uranus and Jupiter, I think there's a lot of, again, fucking around and finding out. And I think that really starts on Wednesday, even though it will continue throughout the week. And I think you will see some decent results. It may not be, again, the best optics. Like when you try sushi, you get a bunch of different rolls. And like I like certain things and I don't like other things. And so there's kind of like that level to it, which, by the way, if you're not on my Spotify already, I got a new song coming out on Wednesday. So make sure you check out my Spotify page in the link below. This new song's really, really good. It's my favorite so far. But anyway, we also have the moon then ingressing into Virgo, where it's calculated, it's specific, it wants the details. And again, with the moon in Virgo, there's a lot of like, how do we handle our anxiety? Like, where do we place it at? But the moon will be making a trine to Mercury now that Mercury is fully into Taurus. I think that there's just a lot of earth like energy here, putting things together, feeling grounded, less fire, which isn't bad. Like fire energy isn't bad. We have Mars and Aries. We like that there. But all this earth energy, I think, is really just going to ground us and make us feel a little bit more comfortable, make us feel a little bit more organized and calculated. And I really like this moon in Virgo transit because Mercury immediately ingresses into Taurus. Mercury being about communication, our ideas, our thoughts. It's focused on consistency. It might be a little bit more stubborn. It's focused on, again, value. It's focused on creation. It's focused on, again, pleasure and beauty. And Mercury being about the way that we communicate and like, how are we saying things? What is our mind filled up with? Like with Mercury and Aries, it could be filled with anger or resentment or, just like anxiousness. But Mercury and Taurus, it's like, how can we think about the good things a little bit more? And I think as the moon goes into Virgo, it makes that trine to Mercury, just that mental connection of like, okay, let's focus on the positive. Let's focus on keeping that positive energy. Let's focus on how we can, again, apply that in every little area of our lives that we can at this moment. We then go into Thursday, and truly there's not actually anything going on Thursday, but the moon will be applying to an opposition with Saturn. That full opposition doesn't actually happen until early Friday morning, but the feeling is there all day long. So what's nice about Thursday is that even though nothing specific is happening, which I think is nice, the more harsh part of it is like this looming feeling of like pressure building up. If the moon is in Virgo and we want to be more organized and detailed, opposite Saturn in Pisces is like, you don't know what you don't know. And I think a lot of Saturn in Pisces too is like, you kind of have to call a lot of audibles. You have to play things by ear when it comes to Saturn being about maturity, discipline, responsibilities, burden. That moon opposite Saturn is like, you could plan for every little thing that you think is going to happen, but you don't really know what's going to happen until you do that thing. And so I think a lot of Thursday is just getting prepared in any way that you can, but knowing when to kind of stop yourself. Because again, that really does happen Friday morning, but I just feel like this feeling on Thursday of like, I need to get organized, I need to get detailed, and nothing's ever enough is just there all day long. So then we get to Friday morning, the moon makes that opposition to Saturn. We stop, but I think that's nice because it happens really, really early in the morning, like I think 2 or 3 a.m. And so we go to bed with that kind of feeling. We wake up, it's no longer there. The moon will then make a trine to Venus, and then it will trine Uranus, and then it will trine Jupiter. And then we get another highlight for the week, which is Mercury squaring Pluto. I'm really liking Friday because I think this weekend is honestly really, really good. There's just a lot of breaking up of stagnant energy that I really, really like on this weekend. So if you're wanting a chill weekend, I don't think this is going to be the one for you. And it really starts on Friday because as the moon leaves that opposition with Saturn, it will trine Venus, it will trine Uranus, it will trine Jupiter. What's so nice about this is like, even though we have the moon opposite Saturn, like even though it's like, I'm not really sure how this is going to go, I'm really feeling like I'm hitting this wall emotionally, the moon then trines Venus, Uranus, and Jupiter. It's like, okay, well, what can we just have fun doing? Like sometimes we take life so seriously that we don't really like step back and have a little bit of fun or just focus on like, what's going to make me feel good? And that's so important too. Cause like, if you want everything in your life to go better, like you have to feel good. And if you're too worried about X, Y, and Z to enjoy A, B, and C, well, you're never going to enjoy A, B, and C. You're not going to enjoy X, Y, Z. So it's like, you have to take a step back and say, you know what? This is where my limit is, and I'm going to do the things that are going to put me in that higher vibration, that are going to put me in that better attitude. And I think that's what Friday is for, is the moon makes that trine to Venus, and then it trines Uranus, it trines Jupiter. It's just kind of like bang, bang, bang. Like, oh, let me do this fun thing. Oh, this fun thing gets really, really exciting. Oh, I see the bigger picture now. Everything is good. Everything is fine. I really, really like that for Friday. The only issue is Mercury squares Pluto. Mercury being about our thoughts, our mind, squaring Pluto with Pluto in the superior position is like mental tension. When we talk about the fixed signs, again, they don't really want to change. And Pluto and Aquarius, like it's hard to not bring this analogy up, but it just reminds me of like eat the bugs, live in the pod kind of a vibe. And Mercury squaring Pluto is kind of like that, you know, mental fear around it, or like that mental control, or kind of like, especially like when you get into like social impact and stuff like that, and like, you know, how much you're willing to do, how much you're not willing to do. Mercury being in Taurus, where our mind is more focused on what are the good things, what are the things that I enjoy, what are the things that are pleasurable. And again, we are a lot more stubborn with Mercury and Taurus. Mercury squaring Pluto is just kind of like this resistance to change, this resistance to power structures, this resistance to, you know, how society wants or how people want society to be controlled. And so there's a very mentally resistant day. That's what like really Friday is. But I think more on a personal level, we have all this good stuff going on. And I think Mercury squaring Pluto is just kind of like, how much fear and power and things that are outside of your control, how much does that affect you day to day? And are you letting that affect you? And like, are you unwilling to compromise? It's a big part of Mercury and Taurus. Like, again, being stubborn is sometimes a good thing. And I just think Mercury squaring Pluto is like not willing to compromise with change. But I think the other part of it too is Pluto's in the superior position here, and Mercury is just kind of like resistant to it. Again, it reminds me of like the sushi analogy. It's just like, you know, when you're like a kid, I'm a Gen Z, so I was a chicken nugget kid for a long time, where it's just like, no, I don't want to try new foods, and I won't listen to my parents and shit like that. Like, I'm not going to eat my vegetables. Like, that's kind of the vibe here. And, you know, I dealt with consequences for that. There was times I got in trouble because I didn't want to eat my stupid vegetables, even though I still hate broccoli to this day, and I always threw up when I ate broccoli. But that's kind of the vibe going on here on Friday. We then get to Saturday, and there's quite a bit going on. The moon, while it's in Virgo, makes an opposition to Neptune. It will then ingress into Libra, trine Pluto. That's that. But we have two highlights on Saturday, which is Venus conjoining Uranus. And then we have the Sun-Jupiter conjunction. So the Jupiter cazimi, essentially. This is really interesting. And going back to last month with the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, this is still in that orb, in my opinion. And I'm not going to like say like this is the case every time with like, let's say Jupiter conjoining Uranus or whatever. It's like, but because we have the Jupiter cazimi ruled by Venus, while Venus conjoins Uranus, it's kind of like the follow up to that. This, I think, brings a little bit more of that Jupiter-Uranus energy back up. And let's talk about the moon real quick. While the moon's in Virgo, making that opposition to Neptune again, you don't know what you don't know, getting a little bit lost in the weeds and the details. It's like there's a card guy I see on like Instagram all the time where he shuffles cards and pulls them out in any way. I just like the magic of it. When you try to read into how he does it, it just gets overwhelming. You're not really going to know. So I don't worry about it. That moon in Virgo opposite Neptune is like, sometimes you have to just be like, you know what? A cool card trick is a cool card trick. Reading into it too much is just going to stress you out. But then the moon ingresses into Libra, where now we're a little bit more focused on, again, balanced relationships, What are we doing with other people? We have the moon in a Venus ruled sign, and we have Jupiter, Uranus, the sun in Mercury in Taurus, while Venus is in Taurus with Uranus. There's this very Venusian energy kind of going on Saturday. And as the moon's in Libra, it'll make a trine to Pluto. I really like this for connecting with other people and connecting with relationships and feeling empowered by them. But we have Venus conjoining Uranus, and then we have the Sun-Jupiter conjunction. That is not a small thing. That is kind of a big deal, like to have them both on the same day. Venus being the ruler of Taurus, conjoining Uranus is like this electrifying, shocking thing, especially in terms of pleasure or fun or going out. Like I think going out on Saturday night is not a bad idea just to kind of see what ends up happening. But then you add on top of that the Jupiter cazimi. The Sun-Jupiter conjunction is essentially the Jupiter story being reset. This is Jupiter being purified by the light of the sun. This is resetting that Jupiter and Taurus story, which started last May. What has Jupiter done for you in the past year? You know, what house has Jupiter gone through in your chart? And where were you at this time in your life in that area versus where are you at in this time of your life now in that area? And this is just really restarting that story again. It's like making a formal close to a formal beginning. And a lot of astrologers talk about the Sun-Jupiter conjunction being like the best day of the year. And I think there is energy to that, right? Like the light of life is literally being brought to the greater benefic planet. So it's like, look at this shiny thing. While the ruler of Jupiter, since it's in Taurus, is Venus on top of Uranus. There is, again, a level of breakthrough, a level of just massive change, of like this electrifying fun feeling that happens on Saturday that I think is really worth trying to enjoy. Like, I would do your best to go out of your own way and try to do something fun, try to do something exciting, try to lean into that as much as you can. And then we get to Sunday. The moon will be in Libra, and it will make an opposition to Mars and then conjoin the South Node. And we have two more highlights. We have Mars conjoining the North Node. That's a lot. And then we have the Sun sextiling Neptune. Sunday is a massive vibe shift. The moon in Libra making an opposition to Mars first. So the moon goes opposite Mars first. Then immediately after it conjoins the South Node. And then immediately after Mars conjoins the North Node. Talk about a black and white feeling. You know, the moon in Libra, this almost reminds me of like being hungover and like having to do something, like, you know, you're called to do something that you got to go and do. Like, let's say you get called into work on Sunday, but you're massively hungover. Like, that's the vibe on Sunday of like, I'm emotionally drained. I'm emotionally exhausted. Maybe the people I was with, you know, took a lot of energy out of me. But the moon goes opposite Mars. It's like all of a sudden, like, let's say you've got kids, you know, your kid broke, you know, an arm or something like that. So now you got to rush them to the hospital. You got to sit there forever and you're like not feeling good. You're feeling drained. The moon and Leo, and you're cranky, right? Like there's this kind of just cranky attitude to Sunday. The thing I do like is Mars conjoining the North Node, which is like pushing the big red button, going really fast, going really hard, feeling like we have to just go, 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 go. My only thing is I would work on not overdoing it. Like, for example, when you're lifting weights or you're doing like heavy workouts, like you can push yourself to a limit where you injure yourself. And I think there's like a high likelihood of that on Sunday, like both energetically, like you will feel like you want to push yourself really, really hard. And I think you should, but I think you need to know what that line is to where you don't injure yourself. Cause that's another thing Mars likes to do. It likes to cause injuries. And that moon Mars opposition is like, again, not feeling that good, but really wanting to go anyway. In motocross, when you ride dirt bikes, there's this kind of like, it's not forbidden, but it's kind of like this what's the word I'm looking for? Like superstition where it's always the last jump or the last lap of the day that someone gets injured. Every single, like, except when I broke my arm, but it's always like, let me just do this one thing. Let me just do it one more time. And that's when you get hurt. That's when someone gets, you know, seriously injured. And that's kind of the vibe on Sunday where it's like, oh, I know I need to pack up my bike. I need to get, you know, dressed. I'm getting tired, but let me just do this one more thing. Let me just push it a little bit more. And then you get injured. That's kind of the vibe here. The only other thing that's happening on Sunday, though, is the sun is sextiling Neptune. So on a completely different page, there is this kind of like, you know, connection to more creativity, more visualization, more identifying a little bit more with our vision. Like the sun sextiling Neptune is like, okay, I could see the bigger picture here. I can use, you know, mysticism and illusion and fantasy to kind of help my vision to kind of see myself in a different perspective, which is very not everything else. Like the moon Mars opposition with the moon on K2 and Mars on Rahu is very one thing. And then we just have like the sun sextiling Neptune. The only thing with the sun sextiling Neptune is a little bit of delusion. So again, being like, oh, I can do this one thing and I'll be fine. And then, you know, you break a leg or you break your arm. That's kind of the vibe. And that's this week. But next week next week. By the way, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do, because my Jupiter and Gemini video is coming out this week as well, and I don't want you guys to miss that. It's really, really good. There's a lot to talk about. But next week, look at how many things we have going on. We have the sun ingressing into Gemini. We have the sun making a trine to Pluto. We have the full moon in Sagittarius, which is really exciting. We have Venus conjoining Jupiter. That's pretty much as good as it gets. Jupiter makes a sextile to Neptune at that 29-degree mark. That's great. Venus moves into Gemini. Fun. We have Venus trining Pluto. I guess fun. And then Jupiter ingresses into Gemini, where next week is the vibe shift. Like I've been trying to say, May is on paper the best month of the year. And then everything shifts by the end of May, beginning of June, and it's a complete different vibe. That all starts next week. So if you haven't already, subscribed to the channel to keep up to date with all of the transits as well. Comment below. Let me know what you're looking forward to and what you're going through. And if you like this video, give me a like. It actually does help me out. With that being said, I'll be seeing you guys next time.